Well, I don't think it's crazy to suggest that when Tyrese Haliburton went down in the first quarter, there's two things that So I was doing a show with Ortner, and Ortner is in the middle of a take. I think it was Kevin Durant trade related. Because, we're on during the Game 7. Nobody's listening to our show.
Grade the trade.
So let's zig while everybody else is zagging, right? Let's talk about the trade. So he's in the middle of a Kevin Durant trade thing.
I can't wait to hear your takes on the Kevin Durant trade today, Will Ortner.
I actually don't know anything he was saying during the show. I was watching Game 7 every time I wasn't talking.
You just wait till there's a moment of silence and you realize it's your time to talk, and then you jump in with another take.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm watching this, and I see this, and there's two takeaways, and I immediately said this on the air. One, that is absolutely an injury. We don't need to be a doctor to diagnose and say, know what that is.
Yeah, I don't need to see that in slow motion.
Once we were told the whole pop thing, every time we see that now in sports, we all have the same reaction. And I love that on social media people do this whole, let's wait and see. I don't need to. I saw it fire. It's a slingshot, buddy, and that thing fired. It popped.
I love the report in game of the Indiana Pacers say that Haliburton is out for the rest of the game with a lower body injury. You don't say.
And then his dad comes out and just tells Lisa Salters, it's the Achilles.
He's got a lower body. I didn't know that. I thought it was his shoulder that was banged up.
Couldn't tell from the towel over his head and him crying openly in the middle of a Game 7 that's a devastating
Screaming
injury.
on the floor. It happened. Yeah, that was terrible.
The other takeaway I had, and I said this, was Kevin Durant got hurt in the NBA Finals as a Warrior.
He did.
Because he was playing off of what injury?
Calf injury.
Damian Lillard got injured in the playoffs, came back and played for the Bucks against these Pacers.
He did.
Popped his Achilles. What injury did he have?
Calf injury.
You will not see guys play off calf strains anymore. That was the final nail in that coffin of, I think I'm 80%, I'd give it a go. Nope. No, sirree, Bob. You will not see that anymore. So we know that injury when we see it.
Yeah.
We don't need a medical degree for that. And it's going to change the timeline of injuries like calf strains, because we've seen enough examples to say, hey, man, if that thing's not 100% and you're putting all this pressure and movement on it,
sure,
it may be more liable to have that pop effect, and that is devastating.
I think the challenging part for these guys and the organizations themselves is there's obviously the added risk and added potential that could happen. And I think based on his reaction, he was well aware of it. And I think you make an argument based on the trade Indiana made last week that they were aware that this could potentially happen. They randomly just traded to get their first-round pick back for next year out of nowhere in the middle of the NBA Finals. And everybody's like, wait a minute, they're making trades? Okay. Trading this year's pick, getting next year. Okay, all right. You're trying to compete. Why are they doing this in their head? And then when he's on the ground banging the floor saying it happened, he clearly knew that there was the case that this could happen. The challenging thing in a situation like this is, what do you do as an organization? Because there's no way Haliburton's letting you take him out of the NBA Finals with a calf strain. There's no chance. That guy's too competitive. It's the NBA Finals. There's no guarantee you're ever going to get back to this point. They were, the 4-5 seed in the Eastern Conference this year? There's no guarantee you get back to this spot. He's got one more chance to win a game to win an NBA championship. He was great in Game 6. They killed him in Game 6. He played pretty well in that game. And so I think you got that challenge as an organization of, is it worth the risk? Because the outcome could potentially be that he's out for an entire calendar year, but the reward could be you might win an NBA championship. There's not an easy scenario. I think in the regular season, 100% guys are going to be out for 2 months with this injury because it's the middle of February and it doesn't matter what's going on.
That changes things a lot.
It totally does. But come playoff time, man, it's going to be hard when you have this back and forth, because I'm sure the organization will want to say, we don't want to lose you for a calendar year, and the player's going to say, this is my opportunity. I got to play in these games. It's the playoffs.
It's your career, man. That injury, as we go along, it might be the ACL at some point where that injury happens, you're out for the season, but you can be back and you can be close to being the old player. Kevin Durant certainly has shown that. We'll see what Dame and Tatum and now Haliburton have. Coincidentally, all three Achilles pops wearing the number 0 in this playoffs. So weird. But right now, it's still devastating. So I guess the threshold for me is, one, you got to trust the player, how he feels, what they're thinking. You got to trust your medical staff.
Yep.
But also, first round, nah.
Not worth it.
Not worth it. Second round, I'd even argue, not worth it.
So conference finals is okay?
Well, yeah, but I'm going to leave it up to the player.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say this
and
is...
the player, I think, is going to say, I want to play 10 times out of 10.
And if that's the position they want to put themselves in, they're more than welcome to. But I don't think you'll see it in the regular season, which is going to change the timeline of calf strain injuries now.
For sure it will.
So we need to bear that in mind. And I don't think even in the early set of the playoffs, you're going to see teams okay them to play. I think you get in the back end, the Final Four, the championship. Yeah, absolutely. Have at it. Risk it for the biscuit. Totally understand it. Devastating. To watch that happen in real time, I was rooting like hell for the Pacers. I bet on the Pacers money line. I wanted to see Indiana have a championship.
Yep.
It would have been, I still think it would have been better for the league for them to win that title. Now Oklahoma City wins it, and they were very deserving of it, not taking anything away from them. But now the dynasty word's going to get thrown around today. When that injury happened in real time, I was looking for injuries that happened in similar moments in my lifetime that felt as devastating as that one did. Now, you can give me KD in the Raptor series. That was a Game 5.
Yes, it was.
This is Game 7.
And he had just knocked down 3 straight threes.
Well, he had 9 points. Like, he came out the gate red hot.
9 and 7 minutes.
He's talking to the Oklahoma City crowd.
Yep.
This dude's clearly in a I'm taking this from you day.
Yep, he's always big in big moments.
And the one I came back to after thinking about this in real time, I had 2. I had Willis McGahee memories.
Yeah.
And the most recent one for me of how I felt in terms of this dictated the outcome, potentially, Brock Purdy, Eagles, NFC Championship game.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one.
Kevin Durant is certainly worthy of this. I don't think that they beat the Raptors with Klay Thompson and not Kevin Durant.
Sure, I think it's a little bit different, too, because they had won back-to-back titles. Like, they were going for a three-peat, and that changes the equation a little bit in my mind of the devastation.
Sure.
Indiana's never won a championship. Niners hadn't won one in a long time. Some of the other analogies you use, there's like a gap there where this is a huge moment. They were going for a three-peat. He'd already raised 2 banners.
And it's just such a bummer for the sport and for any moment in sports when an injury like that happens at that moment, that early, with that on the line.
Yeah, the only one that came to my mind, just because it really, for me at home, and I know there was a halftime lead, and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe this is even a thing. The only other one that stood out to me was the Colt McCoy injury, Texas, Alabama. Just because of
that's a really good one.
The build-up, the anticipation. It's the first time we've had a Game 7. I was shocked with Indiana winning Game 6 the way that they won it after the way Haliburton looked in Game 5 when he couldn't make a field goal and they lost. Hung around, but ultimately couldn't win. And they won that game by 30. They killed them in Game 6. Mm-hmm. And so all of a sudden you have this like, wow, I can't believe we actually have a Game 7. First time in basically a decade since we've had one. It's been a long-ass time. Sunday night, it was a great sports day. You had the College World Series. Travelers Championship was an awesome ending. Like all this build up to Game 7. Let's sit down, watch Game 7, and then 9 minutes into the game, Achilles pops. And it sucked the life out of me. And it was crazy that they were tied or slightly up at halftime. But you just knew in the back, like, there's no way they're going to win this game without Haliburton.
Okay, so let me ask you this.
I gave them 0% chance to win that game. Without him at all on the floor, 0% chance.
I had the initial feeling of that 0% you speak of, and then I watched the second quarter. My gambling show got done, and I'm watching them, and they take the Nembhard 3, puts them up 1 at half, and I went, I just kept saying, if Siakam can be great.
Yeah, it's just so much easier to defend him, though, without. They're so good defensively, OKC is.
I know.
And you take away arguably their biggest offensive threat or their second biggest offensive threat.
They're just so feisty all playoff. Yeah. I didn't want to completely disrespect them. And
they were in the fourth quarter, too. I mean, they didn't give up. They didn't quit.
The third quarter, 18 points off turnovers is going to lose you the basketball game every time.
It doomed them. You lost your point guard. They turned the ball over a ton. Not that they didn't when he was on the floor, too. That was the bigger bummer. And the takeaway for me, honestly, from the game and the injury, well, one, it's the ramifications of next year. Because you're now looking at an Eastern Conference next year without Jason Tatum, Damian Lillard, and Tyrese Haliburton all season. And that's before anybody else even gets hurt. So now all of a sudden that East looks weird and wild and wacky and wide open. We'll see how the offseason goes for everybody. But I also thought, like, what will be the bigger takeaway from you in this series? Like, what's the bigger memory? And I think part of it has to do with what OKC does going forward. But if this ends up being a one-off title, because we do this dynasty stuff all the time, and it's not a guarantee. We did it with Giannis in Milwaukee. We did it with Jokic in Denver, and they just got one. So we'll see how the future goes. If this ends up being a one-off title, I think my bigger sticking memory will be the vision of Tyrese Haliburton on the floor slamming the court.
Dirt, I don't think there's any question. They could win 2 or 3 from this group, and I do think they're different than the others because of their youth. They could win it next year and repeat. I always think when we go back to their first, we're going to remember this of Haliburton.
Yeah.
Achilles first quarter.
Similar to when Golden State won their first title, and it was, oh my God, Golden State won a championship, but they largely did it without Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving on the other side. Yeah. And, LeBron pushed him to 6, but that was a little caveat that you put on it for sure.
You know who Dellavedova was yesterday?
Matthew Dellavedova.
TJ McConnell.
TJ McConnell had himself a nice little series.
TJ McConnell.
He did.
Had himself a hell of a series.
Scrappy. Gym rat.